mortality was part of the reason we were recognized as one of the 3 health systems in the country now certified for health equity through the National Committee for Quality Assurance, and the only one in Pennsylvania. As you've heard today, despite all our efforts, there are still so many opportunities yet to be met to meet the need. Access to urgent and low barrier mental health addiction treatment is important to decreasing poor maternal outcomes for all, including for Black mothers who have been struggling for access for timely care. And we're proud that our START clinic, which is right below my office in Loretta Claiborne building, provides sort of walk-in urgent, both behavioral and addiction care for anybody, including mothers. We've made some impact overall on maternal outcomes while people are inside our hospital walls, but we're moving backwards through the rest of the postpartum year after delivery. And many of those outcomes, poor outcomes, are related to addiction, domestic violence, and suicide. Besides our partnership with our partners at Family First Health, with our Nurse Family Partnership, with our partners at City York Bureau of Health, with their Healthy Moms, Healthy Babies program, and our obstetrical clinic on Edgar Street, we also have our WellSpan Foundation's pregnancy support program that supports mothers who have been affected by addiction and their children all through pregnancy through 18 months postpartum. We've been training our obstetrical teams on becoming more aware of trauma-informed care so that they can recognize this in the care of those that they're providing services for. And we're very excited with 2 initiatives that are coming up that are funded by WellSpan York Health Foundation. One is a doula training program that we're partnering with a group to train 8 doulas of color so that we can have women have access to culturally and linguistically matched doulas. Doulas are non-clinical birth workers that are present during labor and delivery to help the woman advocate for herself, but also postpartum to make sure her and her infant get the care they need. And then we're very excited about an upcoming partnership we have with the YMCA's New American Welcome Center, where we'll have a Haitian navigator funded by the York Health Foundation that'll work with both us, Family First Health, City Bureau of Health, and our obstetrical teams and the Community Health Center to try to help women from Haitian backgrounds who are facing many challenges to navigate to good health. We also sponsored legislation that was signed by Governor Josh Shapiro last year to ensure proper data collection throughout Pennsylvania on maternal morbidity to improve maternal health outcomes. Despite all this work, there are still so many challenges, and we are committed to working with Family First Health, City Bureau of Health, YWC, and others until all mothers have the outcomes they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you on behalf of all of us. I'm sure I can say this here on City Council. Thank you to the YWCA York. Thank you to WellSpan Health. Thank you to Family First Health, and thank you to our City of York Bureau of Health for the work that you all do surrounding Black maternal health every day. And I know we're just recognizing this as a week, but all the work that you do every day. And thank you for the work that you shall do ahead, working together in unity to make sure that our Black mothers in the community are safe and they have a voice and someone to voice their concerns to, but also that there's a resource for them and there's help for them here in our community. And I look forward to a day that we can be the community where those numbers drop significantly in. And we will be able to tout that as something great in our city, that we're able to decrease that here in the city of York. So thank you all for the wonderful work that you do. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. And we are honored to be able to recognize Black Maternal Health Week here in the city of York. Thank you. Could you ask like a picture?
Equina, that was beautifully said. I'd like to ask the team, for anybody who's watching, can you share phone numbers? Right now, we may have a lot of people who watch this presentation.
Well, we're not
It's not being
airing
televised right
now.
now.
Oh, this isn't?
No, we
Okay.
couldn't get into the computer.
Oh,
but,
okay.
yeah, I mean, if they
Well-
want to do it for the minutes, that'd be posted online, so.
Do you have 1, 2, or 3 phone numbers that you would direct women who are in need to call? Does anybody have a number off the top of your head? Because you gave a lot of information, but one phone number that would be a good starter point for any pregnant woman who needs direction.
Okay, okay, all right, okay.
You can say it louder so we hear it.
717
Thank you.
849
Yep.
2299. That's
2299.
the main number because I don't have everybody's number memorized.
That's fine.
They're in my phone.
Okay. Thank you.
Everybody keeps them.
Colleagues, if you wouldn't mind joining for a picture below.
Oh, okay. Okay, give me one second here. Okay, hold on a second. There's family partnership. Okay.
717-825.
825
26
26
58.
58. Thank you, ma'am.
You all smell so good. Thank you. Oh, proclamation.
ECHTERLY. ECHTERLING. Ha, I wasn't too far off. Oh, okay, yep. So which one is this for WellSpan? I'm sorry, for this is for OBGYN. Okay, and that's WellSpan OBGYN, right? Thank you. Hold on, let me get out this. Wait a minute. No. Let me get out this picture. Oh no, I feel like I want to get under the table.
Thank you.
I got lucky. I got so lucky.
We are live on Facebook.
Walked in one day and I'm like, they were like, perfect.
They are perfect.
Yeah, they are perfect.
Just exactly what I want.
$10. Big Willow over on Roosevelt Avenue.
We are live on Facebook.
You can give it a shot.
Are you?
We're live on Facebook.
Okay.
Why? How?
We are live on Facebook.
Why? How? Why?
Maybe he's doing it even harder.
Okay.
Oh, he just texted me, do you all want to hold on?
You give us a few minutes, we're having some technical difficulties this evening. Thank you. It's on Facebook though.
Okay.
All right. Okay, thank you everyone. Moving along to our meeting schedule, our next council committee meeting will be Wednesday, April the 24th, 6 p.m. here in council chambers. Agenda items are due by 12 noon on April 17th to our city clerk. Our legislative meeting will be held on Tuesday, May 7th at 6 o'clock p.m. here in council chambers, and all agenda items are due by 12 noon on May 1st to our city clerk. We do not have a status from the prior committee referrals, and so we will move along to our legislative agenda this evening. Up first, we have final passage of bill number 8. Move to approve.
Second.
Oh, letting him know that I can't get to the computer. Okay, hold on. Okay, and that's, that was bill number 8, which was introduced by Queen of Washington at the April 2nd meeting of council. It's a bill amending the 2024 budget by appropriating revenue and expenditures for CDBG and home grant funding reflecting changes due to rollover amounts from 2023 budget.
Do we have any council comment?
None.
Do we have any comment from the public regarding this agenda item? Okay. Madam Clerk, please call for the vote.
Well,
Yes.
John Askew,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
Buckingham,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes. And that moves forward. Next up, we have final passage of bill number 9. Move to approve.
Second.
And that is bill number 9, which was introduced by Queen of Washington at the At the April 2nd meeting of council is a bill amending the fiscal year 2024 budget by appropriating additional revenue expenditures for a pocket park outdoor waiting area in Fund 26 special projects in the amount of $40,000.
Is there any council comment regarding this?
None.
Are there any public comments? Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Bub,
Yes?
John Askew,
Yes.
Dennis.
Yes.
Buckingham.
Yes.
Washington.
Yes, and that moves forward. Up next, we have final passage of Bill number 10.
Move for vote.
Second,
And that is Bill number 10, which was introduced by Teresa John Askew at the April 2nd meeting of council. It's a bill amending the 2024 budget by appropriating additional revenue and expenditures for a Raise Your Flag initiative in Fund 26 special projects in the amount of $13,000.
is there any comment from council regarding this item?
None.
None.
Any comment from the public? Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Bub,
Yes?
John Askew.
Yes.
Dennis.
Yes.
Buckingham.
Yes.
Washington.
Yes, and that moves forward. Up next on the agenda, we have final passage of Bill number 11. Move to approve.
Second.
And that's Bill number 11, which was introduced by Queen of Washington at the April 2nd meeting of council. It's a bill amending the fiscal year 2024 budget as follows: for the police department to fund vehicles, security surveillance towers, replacement radios, a golf cart style vehicle, and overtime for violence intervention team in the amount of $621,250. Also for the fire department to fund replacement radios for the amount of $279,000, and for the Health Bureau to fund a match to the County of York for the lead reduction program in the amount of $30,000.
Is there any council comment regarding this?
None.
Any pub?
Maybe we'd just like to thank, because these are funds that aren't coming out of from taxpayers. This was the WellSpan donation, is that correct? And so maybe we just thank them for this contribution. That's it. I just wanted to thank WellSpan for the contribution so that these purchases can be made.
Thank you. Any public comment? Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Bub,
Yes?
John Askew.
Yes.
Dennis.
Yes.
Buckingham.
Yes.
Washington.
Yes, and that moves forward. Moving along, we have introduction of two bills. And so we have introduction of Bill number 12.
Bill number 13.
Thir-
Bill number 12, correct.
Bill number 12.
So introduced?
That's Bill number 12, introduced by Elspeth Bub, and that is a bill approving the inclusion of the 2023 ordinances as part of the codified ordinances.
Because that is a bill, it has been introduced and it will sit.
Until our May 7th meeting.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving along to introduction of Bill number 13. So introduced.
That's Bill number 13, introduced by Queen of Washington, a bill amending the 2024 budget by appropriating expenditures from the American Rescue Plan Act funds for Crispus addicts to support their career-focused initiative in the amount of $100,000.
And that is a bill, and that will sit as well until our May 7th, 2024 meeting. Moving along to our new business items, we have a change in our order of new business items. Number 7 will be moved to the bottom, and 8, 9, and 10 will be moved up. Okay, moving along, we have resolution number
33,
33.
and that's introduced by Councilwoman Dennis.
So introduced.
Resolution number 33, introduced by Felicia Dennis. A resolution approving the recommendations of HARB and issuing a certificate of appropriateness for work to be done, and the application is filed for work at 460 through 462 West Philadelphia Street, 25 North Court Street, 32 West Maple Street, 327 East Market Street, 43 West King Street, 840 South George Street, 357 West Newton Avenue, 366 East Market Street, and 111 East Market Street.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, I was looking at. Move to approve.
Second.
That has been moved and seconded. Is there any council comment regarding this?
No.
None.
Nope.
Any public comment? Yes, sir. Oh, okay. You're welcome. Thank you. Madam Clerk, can you please call the vote?
Let's see here. Bub,
Yes.
John Askew,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
Buckingham,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes. And that passes and moves forward. Moving along to resolution number 34.
So introduced.
That's resolution number 34, introduced by Betsy Buckingham. And that is, what do we say, resolution 34. Be it resolved by the council of the city of York that council hereby consents to the appointment of Sarah Malinsky as a member of the York Business Improvement District Authority, also called Downtown Inc., to fill the unexpired term of Allison Witherow, which term shall expire the first day of January 2026.
Move to approve. Second.
Has been moved and seconded. Is there any council comment regarding this?
I think somebody from Downtown Inc. is here. Would you like to say a few words? Introduce yourself and say a few, thanks. You're not Sarah Malinsky.
Council, no, I am Sarah O'Brien, so we're going to have some confusion. I am the new director of Downtown Inc. I just started work last Monday, April 8th. Sarah Malinsky was unable to be here tonight, but we appreciate your support, and we're looking forward to working with Sarah in our continued work on behalf of the city of York. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
No, any questions?
Thanks for the good work
Thank
you
you.
do.
Thank you.
Welcome.
And welcome.
Yeah, welcome.
Madam Clerk, can you please call the vote?
Bub,
Yes.
John Askew,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
Buckingham,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes. And that passes and moves forward. Moving along to resolution number 35. So introduced.
Would you like this read as a short title or you would the whole thing?
Short title.
Okay, is there a motion to read this by short title only?
We first have to approve.
We approve
Never mind.
34.
Yes. So
Okay.
moved.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor say yes.
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 If you don't want to say no. Okay. That is resolution number 35, introduced by Councilwoman Washington. It is a resolution urging the Pennsylvania legislature to adopt House Bill 1394, the Crown Act, to amend the Pennsylvania Human Relations Act to prohibit discrimination based on hair types, textures, or styles in Pennsylvania. And this resolution will authorize the president of council to just fill out the form to support making it a state statute or a state regulation.
Move to approve.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Is there any council comment regarding this matter?
None.
No.
I have comment. I just want to share that regarding this resolution. As you all know, here in the city of York, on May 18th, 2022, York City Council unanimously approved Ordinance 32 of 2022 to amend the Human Relations Ordinance, Article 185, to include hairstyles and protective and cultural hair textures and hairstyles as a protected class here in the city of York. We were contacted by State Representative Latasha Mays. She sponsored the passing of the Crown Act in the state of Pennsylvania. It passed with a vote of 182 through 21, and now it is on to Senate, and we are here to have full support, hopefully, of that moving forward here in the state of Pennsylvania.
Awesome. Excellent.
Is there any other council comment? No. Any public comment?
Marie Roleta, 200 North Duke Street. I'm 82 years old. when I was in high school, we only could, and I went to a public high school in New York City, and the length of our skirt and the way we wore our hair was of prime concern to our principal, who would stand at the door and refuse to admit anybody who didn't meet her standards. As a result, I did not fight the battle of the hair with my children. But my children are 50 years old now, and it's only now that the battle of the hair is finally being settled. I was here when council passed the resolution last year, and I was thrilled, absolutely thrilled. Just as thrilled as I will be when we get lights.
I know that's right. Keep pressing for the lights.
Yeah. And Pennsylvania is one of the biggest, best states in the Union. And we need to be a leader to other states. So I just so appreciate that the state is going to say, okay, wear your hair however you want to wear your hair. We have so many restrictions on what we can do. And that's so minor. It'll grow out. You can change it next week. You can change it every day. So I really appreciate the fact that you're going to push the state. And that last year you pushed yourself to just end the war. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, can you please call the vote?
Bub,
Yes?
John Askew,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
Buckingham,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes,
Yes.
and that moves forward.
Excellent.
Moving along, we're going to jump up to resolution number 36. So introduced.
Second.
Resolution number 36, introduced by Aquina Washington, whereas statewide partners submitted preliminary final subdivision plan consisting of one lot, multifamily residential and commercial development with 156 residential and 8 commercial units for the properties located at 146 through 150 and 208 through 236 North Beaver Street. And whereas the applicant requested waivers to the subdivision and land development ordinance, and whereas the plan and waivers submitted by the applicant are in accordance with the city's zoning and subdivision ordinances, and whereas the Planning Commission recommended approval conditioned upon outstanding engineers' review and comments, being satisfied, now therefore be it resolved, council hereby approves said preliminary final subdivision plan.
Move to approve.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Is there any council comment regarding this matter?
Yes,
Oh, yes.
Go ahead.
First, and I've expressed this to the mayor, I've expressed it to Economic Community Development. We're asked to approve, land, proposals without any presentation, I'm not comfortable voting on something when I haven't been given the same presentation Planning Commission received. I think our conversation about the overlay would have gone well if we had received that complete presentation. That said, Councilwoman Bupp did request the drawings in the papers, and I've reviewed them as well. I was out there at the site for about an hour yesterday, enough to talk to a few people who live in the area, enough to watch the chaos when school came out and the traffic backlogs. So my overall impression is I want to see RDA properties go back on the tax roll. I want them used to house people to benefit the community. But I think the footprint of this project overwhelms the location. 159 units. over 94 feet high, According to what I read, the average story of a building is 14 when you count everything in between. So this is a 6-story building. Now, ColorWorks behind it, which is a large building, only has 29 units and a parking space for every unit. And they're going to have the retail, but we have a glut of retail spaces, though I think a walkable, mixed-use, building and development would be perfect for this space, but I'd like it smaller. Parking, in the drawings, and in the sidebars, only half a space per unit. Now, I stood there and I walked the area. There's literally no on-street parking in the immediate. You'd have to go blocks to park your car. Imagine being a woman coming home late at night, a mother with groceries and kids having to park. And we don't even know what kind of units these are. There's no presentation here tonight. Are these 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom? Are they meant for singles, retired, families? No information. So, the only parking access you would have, and that's if, you might be able to park in the garage on Beaver and Philadelphia, but that's only free in the evenings and on the weekends. If there's a special event, you're out of luck. So I was really concerned about that, and I read that the county planning did not endorse or oppose this. They raised some of the same points that I discovered. I'm also concerned about the no tree requirement, but there's no trees in that plan, that they asked for a waiver. I'm sorry, trees are a public health policy these days. The return on investment addresses climate, it addresses poor health outcomes, especially for children of color with higher incidence of asthma. It, also in low-income neighborhoods reduces crime rates. This neighborhood is like a desert out there. There's already a lot that's paved over. I would love this project if it were a smaller scale. But right now, it overwhelms the neighborhood. Talking to the school staff who are directing traffic, and I'll tell you, they've worked really hard to improve that process, but it's still chaos. Imagine if you're a shift worker trying to get out of that apartment parking lot at 3 to get to work on time. You're going to have to leave work a half hour early to beat that rush. I think I'm mostly disappointed no one was here to answer my questions, and I'm supposed to just push this along, even though I can see and have concerns, and I just don't understand why council does not get any real information about these. We're simply asked to pass them without questions. That's just my feeling. I'm, very concerned about this policy as it stands. I would support it if it were on a smaller scale.
Hello, how are you doing?
Good evening, everybody. I'm Tom Engler with Site Design Concepts. We prepared this plan for statewide. Just a couple things, and I'll try to start at the higher level issues first. The way the process in the city works is, we work through the ordinances. We design our plans per the ordinances. If there's a zoning issue, obviously we have to go to the zoning hearing board. We get that taken care of. If there's something in the SALDO, the subdivision land development ordinance, that we can't meet or don't want to, we ask for a waiver. All this goes through the Planning Commission. All this goes through staff. I can tell you, we're back. This is the second time we've been to council based on some revisions that we made. We've already been conditionally approved. But this plan meets, I think there's only 2 waivers, and that's the preliminary plan and the street trees. And I will tell you that the street trees were only waived in one location where they already exist further out. And we were required to have, the ordinance required landscaping and trees right at the entrance of our parking lot. And we are landscaping that. We are not putting trees in based on the visibility.
There's very little green space there.
I'm sorry?
There's very little green space.
Well, there's the required green space that's in your ordinance.
Well, that's my point. I read through, and you're applying the ordinances that apply to the downtown, where that assumes a tremendously built-up environment. But here we have a blank slate. So I'm going to go back in history to Farquhar when they got rid of that manufacturing. And they redeveloped. That was, mid-'70s, early 70s. When they redid that, they put a shopping center in. Good. They put the high-rise in, but in front of the high-rise is a nice green space. Some office building went in next to where the Elks is now. Lots of green space. They didn't, jam the footprint. But I understand that, the rules of the central business district mean you can make the building as tall as you want. You can cover as much as you want. But does it make sense for that location is my issue. And so, here you have a blank slate. You can create something that provides a better quality of life, that maybe, has less impact on the congestion that already exists in that area, and especially, the parking consideration. So I understand what you're saying. Yes, you are following the rules, but here you have a blank slate where you could do better and create something nicer for the community.
So I think this developer has a pretty nice vision for this area, and you'll find that in urban areas, the current trend in urban areas is to not even have cars. I mean, the young people that are coming into cities and living in cities don't even have cars, or if they do, they're parked in a garage blocks and blocks away, and they use them on the weekends.
But that's in a city where you have opportunities to meet your needs on foot. I retired, and I'm trying not to use a car. But I'll tell you what, I still need a car for my medical. I needed a car when I worked because there aren't enough jobs downtown. This city doesn't have the businesses, the services, the jobs to support a carless culture. I would love it. When I lived in downtown Baltimore, it was inconvenient and expensive to own a car, so I didn't own one. But I never missed it. I did not need it. Here, we don't have that, and that's where the rub is. Where.
So I guess the question is, and we don't have to debate it philosophically, but what comes first, the services or the people? This is going to bring people. This also is going to bring a lot of services. There's a lot of space here. And it's the vision of this developer, not just on this site, but on the remaining sites, to build that community that is walkable, that does have bodies, so to speak, and that gives the critical mass to provide for these services that will then come. Those services, those restaurants, those shops aren't going to come while there aren't the physical people downtown supporting them. So bottom line is, at this point, we have met the ordinance. I hear your concerns. I understand. This has also been on the books for, oh man, I think the city took this land over in like 2003 or 4. We worked really hard with Governor Rendell to clean this up. It was contaminated. To the point that some of it couldn't be developed as residential. We got it cleaned up, and this will be at least the 4th developer that has looked at this site. The rest of them have not been able to make it work. Some of them have gone. The first developer there was looking at all residential. It was going to be a mix of affordable housing and market rate. They couldn't make the numbers work. And they walked away. We had 2 others come in with various mixed-use presentations that just couldn't make it work. Then, then we had the high-tech center that was going to go in there. Again, couldn't make it work. It's a tight site. It's not, everybody thinks it's this big, wide-open piece of ground, and it's not. There's 3 or 4 parcels there that can be developed. It's cut up by the railroad that we can't even cross. So I think these guys are coming in here with a vision to make this more of to grow the urban center of York. And, I don't know that they have, I can tell you, they do not have full-blown affordable housing through the tax credit program. And we can talk about affordable housing at another time. It's a tough thing to pull off, and there's not enough of it. However, while this is market rate, these guys do support Section 8 housing, and they do put folks into these places that have those subsidies. So at the end of the day, we've met the conditions of the zone. I understand your concerns, and they're your opinion, and that's valid. But we've met the conditions of the ordinance. We're back again because we made a couple minor changes to the site for safety, not only for pedestrians and vehicles, but also safety for the building and the construction. We moved the building back an additional 10 feet because Med Ed no longer blankets the lines so you can work with it. So we were 10 feet away from those lines. They won't blanket those lines while we construct. So we moved the building back another 10 feet. Gives you a much wider sidewalk through there. That changed some of the grading. We also changed the entrance to the parking lot off of Beaver to one-way to make it safer. And then, we went back and forth. Believe me, we worked with your staff for many, many months on the traffic issues in that neighborhood. We originally had, I think it was approved, I think it was conditionally approved with Gay Avenue being two-way from Beaver down to our parking lot entrance. And, the Traffic Safety Committee approved that. We came back in after they made changes to the other alleys directions there that affected the History Center and such. And we went back to the Traffic Safety Committee to talk to them about the way they had changed the alleys. And lo and behold, they changed their mind. They didn't want two-way back through there, so that's fine. We made those changes, and we even widened Gay down closer to the intersection with North Park Lane, where if you walk down there, you'll notice there's a sidewalk, and it makes a little jog. And the roadway through there is only about 17 feet. So we made that 20 feet wide. So if in fact anybody ever has the desire to fight with the railroad, we can get that crossing down on the other side of Colorworks to be a signalized crossing and have that be two-way. But I think that's a little bit of a pipe dream just based on our experience with dealing with York Rail. But we are here tonight with the plan. I have a plan here. Here's, and I'll say this on the record. We used to come to council with our presentation. We used to do that, and slowly over the years, that went away because council didn't ask questions. To the point now where people don't even show up to this meeting with land development plans. I can tell you, every plan that I have, I sit here, and I'm here, and half the time I don't have to answer any questions, and I get up and leave, and that's fine, that's great. Other times I'm here, and I'm glad to answer questions. I will say, this is the first time in a long, long time that I haven't shown up with my easel and my board.
Right.
I usually show up with that, and it's never used, so I do have these for you tonight, but I just explained what we did. But I'll be glad to hand these out and go over every change that we made that brought us back.
I looked at them all today.
And as you're, and if you're that engaged, which is awesome, that you're going to the site and looking at the site, if you ever have a question and you're visiting the site, we'll be glad to make that trip with you. We'll walk you through it. We'll answer your questions on site. However that, if that's helpful, we're always willing to do that. We're here to, all our projects, we want to be a win-win, not just for our clients, but for the community that they're in. And that's just how we operate, and I'll always be glad to meet with you out on the site and discuss these issues. Again, as far as how the process goes, I'll leave that to you to figure out. We've been in front of the Planning Commission at least 2 times. We've met with staff separately at least 3, maybe 4 times on this project, and I've been to the Safety Committee 3 times to talk about this and get it to a point that we could all agree. I don't know there's anything that we can do on the traffic on Beaver with the school right there and the lack of pull off or ability to drop kids or have a queue for that. But right now the street's closed sometimes, and these guys are aware of that. And if I were betting, I would bet that at some point in the near future, 5-10 years after Northwest Triangle's built out, I would bet that the street configurations back in there change again to better meet how people are going to use it. Traffic is one of those things where it's a guess. When we analyze traffic, we make a guess at how people are going to use these streets, and we do the same thing on sites. But at the end of the day, people drive the way they want to drive and where they want to drive, and that's going to end up dictating how the traffic in this neighborhood gets realigned based on this development and the existing development that's already there. I don't know, did I answer any questions, or did I just, did I just talk? I apologize.
Well, how many stories is this? Was I right in an estimate of six?
5.5.
Five and a half?
Yeah, 5.5 is what they're calling it. Yep, yeah, yep.
Was there a resistance of the developer to build something with smaller units that had a smaller footprint? Is this about return on investment for them? I'm just still thinking the footprint of this just really overwhelms that space.
So, I don't know what the developer's financials are, but I do know that as we've looked at this and gone through the planning for this process, it's a very tight return. And so, getting these units in here is paramount to them being able to make the investment, number one. But number two, I will say, they have a vision. They have a vision to expand the downtown into the central business district, into an area that is that has been underutilized for, the Ohio Blenders were there up until 2000 or maybe early or late 90s, but underutilized for decades. So if their vision comes to fruition, I think you're going to be very happy with this project. If for some reason this fails, then you're going to have a big building down there with nobody in it.
And that's a fear too. I mean, when I
don't think
read
that's-
this,
yeah,
I thought
they've done the
dense
market
supply.
studies.
That's where this, it was the kind of scale that I would imagine putting in that, area. Not this, kind of, because it's a tight space and it just seems to overwhelm it. 159 units, it's an awful lot for that area.
Thank you.
Thank
I believe Councilwoman Bump had some questions.
I thank Terry. I think she covered all my questions for the moment. I mean, I guess traffic and the ingress and egress is the issue. My first issue was trees, because I also feel like it's a desert there, and I wasn't keen on, waiving the tree requirement. As it sounds to me, it requested a waiver of the street tree planting, so I'm hearing that
It's
maybe
just
you're
that
still
that
planning to have some trees if
Yeah, it's just
the
that entrance.
limited.
There's already tree wells out there. Some of
Right.
the trees are alive, some of them are dead. But those tree wells that are on the plan, there is one, on this property, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 across the frontage tree wells that will get either new trees or the existing trees maintained.
Thank you for clarifying, because I thought that meant you were going to take them all down. And then talking about the traffic, I did read about how they're planning so that there's sufficient access for a fire truck. But yes, I guess the school being so close to it, and it's good you had meetings with the traffic team. Do you need to have, it looked like you were having access by the railroad tracks and then exit closer to the church, if I read the plan correctly?
Yeah.
And you were perhaps were you considering two ways by the church and not having anything by the railroad tracks, which is so close to the school, and perhaps you were trying to avoid having any access there, or are you required to have some sort of access there? Because
Well, originally, we weren't going to have an access onto Beaver for that parking lot, and it was going to be two-way, up and down Gay, from Beaver west to really the Colorworks.
Right.
Property line. And that's how
Makes
we're getting it.
sense.
And that's how it was originally approved.
Right.
And then the city changed a lot of the directional of those alleys on their own back in there. So we went back in to talk about that, and that's when we backtracked a little bit, so look, no more two-way, and that's fine. We just widened it, so it could be two-way in the future if that's what needs to happen. So right now, we have an entrance all the way to the north, right up against the railroad tracks.
Right.
That would be the emergency access in, and that would be the access to that parking lot. And then there's also an access from that parking lot onto Gay that would then have to come back up to Beaver.
Right.
We still have an access on Gay into that, the parking lot has 3 accesses now, one on Beaver, one on Gay, and one on North Park Lane.
Thank you. Are there any other council comments?
Thank you for showing up. Thank you for answering
Yeah, no
questions.
problem. Always a pleasure to come and talk. We're happy about our projects, and we want you. We're not here to disguise anything. We're here to make sure that everybody understands.
Thank you. Are there any public comments? I know we have, oh, yeah.
Marie Rowley to 200 North Duke Street, and I walk down there at least twice a week with friends because that's where people from my building walk their dogs. And number one, yesterday it smelled terrible there from the creek. Number two, maybe they cleaned that up, but it doesn't show. It is a mess. Number three, even in the morning, Rapid Transit can't get their 6N through to make their time stops. And it's worth our life to cross Beaver Street with a walker and a dog on a leash. I live a block and a half away, and there is no way, even given the same rent, that I would move from the building I live in over there. And that's just from walking in that area at least twice a week.
Thank you. I believe we have Director Watson here from Economic and Community Development. Good evening.
Good evening.
Just have one comment. I was listening to Councilwoman Janescu passionately speak about this project. I just wanted to first stand up and say, even though it is presented by the Economic and Community Development Committee, this is not presented by my department, because you said no one's here from Economic and Community Development. So I want to make that clear that this is an RDA project, not Economic and Community Development. And the other thing I want to say is I have been asking since day one in reference to this project. My only question has been, how many affordable housing units do we have? I have always been concerned about affordable housing and will always be concerned about affordable housing. And so that's just my comment for tonight.
Thank you. We have Blandon Nace here, representing our redevelopment authority, I assume.
I'll wear that hat first. Blandon Ace, I'm first going to speak to the redevelopment authority. As Tom mentioned, and I will support everything that Tom said. Tom's been working in this community. Tom and I first met in 2004 or 5, and he was the project manager for the stadium project. So we worked closely together, and Tom gets it and understands what the city needs and from a physical infrastructure standpoint. The redevelopment authority, let me back up 15 years. When I started here July 25th of 2005, my second day of work was a project meeting about the Northwest Triangle, which had started in about September of 2004. So this is an ongoing project for the 20 years, coming up on 20 years now. Credit to my predecessors in the city and the RDA, both Kevin and Shalosky, who did the yeoman's work on getting state grants. There was a Growing Greener, there was a Growing Greener 2, there was a RACP, there was a ton of projects and grants from the state. Governor Rendell came in and really helped out the city. All told, the city, not the RDA, the city has invested about $14 million on this project, most of it grants and matching funds. We leveraged repairs of the Philadelphia, the RDA at the time, leveraged funds that were used to improve Philadelphia Street Garage to this project as to serve as a match. This has been a very, 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 very complex project of the city and the RDA both, like I said, for 20 years. When I was on board here. I was very proud that we had signed a development agreement and a RACP grant awarded as well for the development of the York Plan 2.0. And there were renderings and schematic designs started on a 9.5-story office tower. If you've ever seen the Avengers, the vision was this huge, tall, superhero type building. Those plans, as we all know, fell aside, and the RDA immediately, RFPs were due February 1st of 2022. The Redevelopment Authority put out the Northwest Triangle on a nationwide search for developers to find a replacement for the York Plan 2.0, and received, I believe there were 12 or 13 proposals that came in. And it wasn't an RFP, it was a request, we made it up, it's called an RFID, a request for interested developers, which was really interesting. And Statewide Partners was one of the respondents. Ironically, they had proposed to do this site back when the York Plan 2.0 wanted this site, and they won the opportunity. So Statewide came back, they were still interested, and they presented a proposal to the RDA that checked every single box. This is a walkable community. This is engagement with the rail trail. This is bikeable, walkable, retail, mixed use, affordable housing, everything, and they committed to that. So they are under agreement with the Redevelopment Authority to meet those standards that were in that request for interested developers. And so far, I get a chance to work with a lot of developers in what I do, both economic development and redevelopment, and they have stayed to every single promise that they have made. They've been working with the school. The lot where the school teachers park, the gravel lot, has been owned by the RDA, and the RDA has been comping parking spaces to the teachers to park there. That happened before me. And the RDA also leased out spaces. I was the person responsible for telling people they had to move and they couldn't park there anymore. And we got a ton of pushback from the school. But the school also said, we knew this was coming. This Northwest Triangle project was here well before we even thought about locating our school here. And we knew that this day would come sometime. Credit to the developer. They have committed. They are allowing the teachers to park there now. There's a great line of communication, and they have committed to adding additional gravel parking spaces on the other side further down the road to try to alleviate parking as best they can to help their neighbor. They're just that type of good guys so far. So the RDA is really excited to finally find the right use for this site. And even going back, as Tom had referenced, the multiple developers, and because I've been peripherally involved in this for the last 20 years in my other position, we had the opportunity to bring in a really, really big national developer that was going to partner with Kinsley and build some really great stuff, but it wasn't the right stuff. This was suburban townhomes that just wouldn't fit the urban environment that the city of York deserves. The RDA, to their credit, said no. And we had a guy, I remember, I don't know if Tom remembers, there was a guy that used to drive around and had the vision of doing cable cars and cobblestone streets and police horseback. What was his name? I can't either. I was thinking about it the other day. He had this crazy vision, and the RDA said, no, that's not appropriate. So I think the RDA is very thrilled with who they found so far. As Tom mentioned, they have committed to accepting Section 8 vouchers. And if you talk to anyone involved in that process right now at the Housing Authority or citywide, there is a lot of reluctance for landlords to be engaged in the Section 8 process, to be a Section 8 unit. It requires a separate, independent level of inspection that a lot of landlords just don't want to deal with. And these guys are absolutely, we will certainly take them. So we are happy about all of that. From an economic development perspective, allow me to change my hat. I am Chief Opportunity Development Officer for the City of York, and this is going to be an economic development boom for York. It really will. There is a need for people want to live downtown. They want to have retail below them. This is 8 retail, I think 20,000 square feet of retail space. This is almost like creating a whole new block in the city in fact, it literally is, of retail spaces available. If you were looking to lease retail space right now, they're few and far between, and they're not in great shape. This is brand new, achievable space. And in fact, they may get angry with me later, but their numbers, they have run to offer that retail space at a very, very, very low rates because they see the need for retail space downtown, and it's only going to help them. And there's always this ongoing debate, like Tom said, chicken or egg. Retail follows rooftops, and retail will go where the people are. And so this first phase of this project is phenomenal. We are thrilled for it. Wearing both my hats, this is a very, very good project, and I thank you all for being patient for 20 years as we finally get to this. And finally, as Tom and Mayor referenced, the reason this was previously approved and the reason that it came back is because of the city's traffic safety committee. And I've spent ad nauseum amount of time trying to figure out which is the right way for which street to flow. And the city came back and demanded this driveway entrance off of Beaver Street to that lot on the south adjacent to the church. So that forced the developer to have to make these changes. And there was a big debate. Do we even have to come back to council? And the city's engineer said, yes, this is a change enough that you need to come back. Although it is caused by us, we as the city can at any time change the direction of our streets. So that's what we are doing, and therefore you have to resubmit these plans to show that impact on it. So it's nothing nefarious. It's nothing that slipped. It was actually a demand by the city to make these changes. So we're super excited about it in both my hats.
Thank you, Glenda. I have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Do we know how many properties they're committing to Section 8 vouchers?
We don't, and we've asked that question, and they don't know yet either. A lot of it depends on how many people apply. It really does. I mean, they can't say it's 130 because they don't know how many people want to live there, but they're not going to cap it either. So you can't. It's from what I understand, it's tough to make that commitment. But we will take this many.
So are all the properties going to be outfitted to Section 8 standards?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, and they are. From what I understand, they are mostly 1 and 2 bedroom units. Yeah, that's what I know about the property.
And I just have one comment. I would be hopeful that the businesses will be open to our minority, women-owned, and disadvantaged businesses here in the city of York.
I don't know why they wouldn't. Yeah, that's not even a factor in their mind, I think. Yeah.
I don't know if anyone else has any comments.
You kind of hit on what I was going to speak about, and that was just making sure that as we move along with this process, I know it's been 20 years, but the affordable housing is important because we know in the city of York we've had regentrification taking place too. And so making sure, I know that you said you don't know the percentage, but it would be nice to know a percentage to have a little bit more surety of that later on things won't change because we have a great shortage of housing right now. And
right.
So I think, me personally, think it's an awesome opportunity if it stays in the lines of affordable housing, making sure that the residents that are in need right now have something to look forward to. But my one concern is that it doesn't shift into going the other direction.
Agreed. Agreed. Yeah.
So that's my concern.
And they know my and this is personal. I have a very, very strong. In fact, when President Washington and I first met, we were at the Homes at Thaxton Park groundbreaking, and I still remember the comment you and I conversation I had. I personally feel that mixed income housing is critical. That there is no reason we should put people in boxes. That just because you can't afford to live someplace, that you have to live in a bad place or a bunch of low-income people clustered together. And that's a personal charge of mine. That people need to live with other people.
Right.
It's how I grew up, and that's what I know.
I think
that's
that's
important moving forward.
I think what you just said is good too, but just to make sure that you know, that we keep in mind, that we do offer, I don't want to put percentages out there, but it would be a nice thing to have a large percentage there.
Right.
That way, if, you know, if they want to do a mix, that would be good. But just that we, you know, don't change. We see that sometime where we start out sounding right. And then ultimately, when it's all said and done, then we're at this place and everybody's like, well, what happened? So that's important to me. I'm a resident here in the city of York and a homeowner as well.
Former neighbor of
And I
mine.
also work for the school district, so I know the shortage of housing and things for our young people. And so that's important to me. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
One quick
Yes.
question. Two questions. When's the last time we built any new apartments from the ground up in the city? And number two, do statewide partners have any experience building from the ground up? Curiously, are they the ones doing the Alice apartments on Broad Street? I can't remember.
They are.
So
They
they
are,
have
yes. They have also up in North York. In fact, their office right now is adjacent to their housing development that they did on 8th or 9th Avenue. There's a cluster of new homes that were built there, and that was all of theirs from ground up. And they've done housing. Their development manager, who I've known for decades, is constantly in outside of Philadelphia, Northern Virginia, Hershey. They are bigger than you think sometimes, and they get it. They understand what's needed. So we have no, and the RDA, quite frankly, the RDA, when they got the request for interested developers back, we vet. The RDA vets the developers to make sure that they're financially stable. And that's a very critical part when bringing a big project like this on board as well. And I'm sorry, I forget your other question.
When was the last time we built any new apartments from the ground up?
That recently came up in a conversation at an RDA meeting, and we didn't research it, but ground up is tough. Right now, Fox Bakery, Royal Square is doing some for Kinsley there at the old TRG office. That's not ground up, that's a retrofit. There were some, gosh, this was years ago, back when I was involved in Old Town East when I first came to town. If you recall, in the 300 block of East Princess, there was a couple new townhomes that were built.
Right.
The Murphy and Dittenhafer design. Those were new builds, but nothing of this magnitude came to mind quickly.
What about the development off State Street out in the East End?
Oh, yeah.
That's
right.
That's
State Street.
Yeah, and
Yep,
that
that's
was within the
ground
past
up.
couple of years. That was
Oh,
from the ground up.
yeah, on
And
the
that was a
Danskin
pretty-
site?
And that
Yes.
that is all
That is an affordable housing, yes.
That
And
is
of course,
all-
Thaxton 1 and Thaxton 2, of course.
But they're retro, well, there's more, but they're retrofit. I mean, they tore old houses down and built new ones at that.
Well, and Danskin tore down an old factory and
Right.
built homes
Right.
there too, yeah.
But anyway,
yeah.
so.
And same thing with as Tom referenced,
I mean,
the
so it does
Northwest
happen.
Triangle
Yeah,
is.
It's definitely
It was
happening.
a brownfield site, and we've had tour after tour after tour after tour of people to see this is how you can redevelop a brown. In fact, I'll put a plug in. The Pennsylvania Downtown Center is hosting their event on June 23rd to the 25th, and I am actually hosting one of the tours to show how you can successfully redevelop a neighborhood. So the statewide conference is being held in York this year at the Yorktown. And there's walking tours of downtown, and one of the featured sites is the Northwest Triangle.
And we as council members are all invited to participate in that. Thank you. Yeah,
All right? Thank you. all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
thank you.
Is there any-
Yes.
And it's particularly huge in the city, but in the last 10 years, it's become big everywhere. I mean, it's everywhere.
Everywhere.
I'm sure you're aware, but if you're not, the Economic Alliance has a committee set aside right now studying housing in York County, particularly in the boroughs in the city, as a way to figure out the affordable issue. And it's not easy. I can tell you that through our discussions leading up to what's about to be presented as 6 or 7 major tactics, through those talks, there were numerous developers in the room, and all of them were open to having some form of Section 8 in their buildings moving forward. They never really thought about it. They heard from all the affordable housing advocates in York that this was needed, and they just never really thought about it. And so the majority of those developers were into it. The issue is that you build something and they can't afford to let something sit waiting for a Section 8, so if somebody else comes along, it becomes market rate. There are no ordinances in place that require that. There are other municipalities that do require, if you're going to do 10 units, 20% have to be affordable or Section 8. You know, when we see these actual, it's hard to say affordable housing because it has a connotation. It is a tax-structured, subsidized project that probably dozens and dozens and dozens of affordable housing developers have applied for, and maybe 10% get funded. So for us to ever sit back and wait for the affordable housing to come, and that's where we're putting, you know, people with non-working or non-living wages to live all in one place. That's, I mean, it's such an antiquated process. So trying to figure out how we can have this mix, believe me, we see it day in and day out in our line of work, and right now there is no solution other than to have developers voluntarily do this and put the Section 8 units in their apartment buildings. So just something to think about. It's a struggle everywhere. You know, everybody has a picture in their mind of what people that live in affordable housing look like and act like, just like Section 8 people, and those are hardworking people who just don't. Who have jobs, sometimes 2 or 3 jobs, right, and still don't make the ends meet. So it's an issue that we understand that you're facing, but I would strongly encourage you to reach out to the Economic Alliance, David Gonzalez, who's leading that charge, and talk to him and get involved. Where there's probably 30 or 40 people on that steering committee, and there's room for 30 or 40 more, or at least 5 or 6.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I just want to add that for affordable housing, there's a limited number of tax credits available. So somebody that we're supporting with some of our American Relief Plan dollars that's improving an already affordable housing complex in York, I mean, they're up against, they're fortunate because nobody else from York County or York City is applying, Hudson Park. But if they were, they're all in competition for this little bit of support that they can get for affordable housing. So it's a struggle on many levels. I'm glad to hear that people are willing to make Section 8 available because that's a way to get around that, the tax credit issue.
We can't hear you from there.
Come up.
Being involved with economic development almost my entire career at some level, whether directly or indirectly, you know, we can do these big, sexy projects that look great in a downtown. But at the end of the day, I'm a firm believer that economic development starts with healthcare, what we talked about at the beginning, right, education, and housing. You know, if you take care of people's basic needs, if they can feel safe and secure and have opportunity, they just need to have opportunity. If you can take care of those 3 or 4 things, boy, the rest of it comes. The jobs come, the money comes, and things get built. So
Thank you.
we've gone way past what we're here to talk about today. But
No, it's good.
Thank
Good
you. Good
conversation.
discussion.
thank you very much for bringing
Thank
it up.
you.
You know, I sometimes speak up and sometimes I don't. And it's great to have Section 8 housing. And so when we say affordable housing, I think about there are opportunities for Section 8. But what about the people who don't qualify?
Right,
The people
that.
in between seem to get,
Exactly.
you know, because even just looking at the apartments online now, just a room, if you want to rent a room in a house, you know, we're talking $700 for that. I remember when I lived in Hudson Park Towers, I've been in my house now for 27 years, so it's been at least, you know, before that, like about 30 years ago. I know I don't look like I'm that old, I know.
Don't.
But I think my rent was only like $400 and something. I mean, you can barely even get a storage unit for that much now.
Right.
So it would be nice to see housing for the in-between. It really would. I would love to see more of that. Oh, good, Nona's going to speak on this.
Yes, Director Watson.
Yes, you are absolutely right, Diane. And I almost cringe sometimes when people say affordable housing, that they go right to Section 8.
Yeah, I wasn't talking about that.
No. But what I want to say to council is you're going to see come before you shortly, hopefully. We're working on a package that will include inclusionary zoning, because the local governments, we have a responsibility as well to incentivize, to help our developers to actually build mixed income housing. And that's one of the things we need to look into. Like, no, we might not be able to always tap into the funds that are out there, but when I was in Harrisburg, we put together a 4-piece legislation where we thought of all the different things that we could bring to the table. I met with many developers, and they said, listen, the numbers don't work. We have to come out of pocket if we do this, that, and the third. So we came together and we said, okay, well, we can save money here, we can save money there, we can save money. This is what the city has to offer. And that's one of the things that's going to come before council shortly. So please keep that in mind.
Thank you, yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana, because that's what I was kind of talking about. I like Section 8. I like Section 8, but I'm not eligible for Section 8, so I fall in that affordable if I would want to move. But thank God I got, property.
The missing middle.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one more question. Does statewide partners, do they have the capacity to build both at Triangle and Broad Street at the same time so that the Alice doesn't get pushed back? Or maybe, I'm not sure where it is in the approval process anyway.
I realize I'm sitting in the back of the room nodding my head. I'm sorry. Yes, we believe they do. The Broad Street, just as an update, they have gone through, that was, as you may or may not know, it was environmentally contaminated. And previous staff went through and got what's called a site-specific approval to build on that site. Because at the time, and again, I think it was the guy with the overhead carriages, he wanted to build a grocery store on that site, which would have been good. Obviously, that didn't happen, but the site was never remediated to a residential standard. Interestingly enough, it was very, very, very close, but they didn't make that choice to say that it's going to be residential. So statewide has gone in and drilled additional environmental test wells, done additional sampling to see that it can meet that standard now, and is working with DEP for the what's called a consent order and agreement. It's actually filed against the property that says this is what you must do if you ever want to build here. And DEP just replied back, I believe it was March 31st, April 1st, they replied back and said they had some additional questions. So they're working with that. I know that they've started to sketch out the specific land development plan and layout. They've met with the fire department. So they are teeing that one up concurrently to the Northwest Triangle, but they really want to break ground on the Triangle. And they have their financing or their banking all in place for the construction for the Triangle. And we anticipated groundbreaking before August, which is really exciting to finally, and a sense of pride for me after 20-some years that we're finally making it happen. But Broad Street, in theory, Broad Street is right behind it. And yes, they do have the capacity. Sorry.
Thank you. Is there any further questions or comments from council?
None.
Madam Clerk, can you please call the vote?
Bub,
Yes.
John Askew,
No.
Dennis,
Yes.
Buckingham,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes. And that moves forward. Do we have any requests for any future meetings? Do we have any? Any council comment?
I have council comment. Do you?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I have two council comments.
Thank you.
Thank you. My first council comment is Councilwoman Janescu made a comment that as council members, we are expected to vote on items without being given the opportunity to ask questions. I want to correct that. All council members have every opportunity to ask questions, whether that's questions of the administration, whether that's questions of the developers, whether that's questions of businesses and organizations. We all have the opportunity to ask questions, to do information seeking and finding, so that way we can make an educated vote. So no one is ever expected to make a vote on anything uneducated and without the ability to ask questions. We all have our due diligence to ask questions at any time, and if we cannot get those answers, then we have the opportunity to make a vote in the way that we choose to make a vote. And I just want to clear that up. And the second thing is I wanted to remind all of our York City residents that April the 23rd is Election Day. So I want to remind everyone to make sure they get out to the polls and vote. Polls will be open 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. It only takes a few minutes for you to get out and vote. So thank you, and I will turn it over to Vice President Buckingham.
So I just have to give a shout out to a young scout, Scout BSA, who interviewed me a week or two ago, and her brother interviewed me 2 years ago. It was a really great experience for me. 11 years old, 5th grade, lives in the city, attends the York Academy, and they're required to interview a community leader for their Building a Better World badge, which is a requirement to get their Arrow of Light Award.
What was it, a better what?
Better World, Building a Better World badge.
Okay.
And it's really interesting. Of course, she was curious. She's very composed. And they came to my home. And she, wanted to know what we do as council people, et cetera. But they're also required as part of this, for their badge, is to come forward with an issue that they want to discuss about the city. Her brother 2 years ago wanted to discuss about these empty lots and could the city build more parks. So that was a great conversation about how many parks we have and maintaining them. But I could also tell him that if he wanted to put a little garden in that empty lot that was near his house, that he could talk to the city and they would, probably let him do that. And it was, building that understanding of what it is to maintain parks and how many we're fortunate to have in the city. This student's issue, this young lady often walks home from school when she lives on South George Street past St. Mary's, and walks from the academy, York Academy, and she says to me, "Mrs. Buckingham, people can smoke anywhere. And I have to walk through all these people smoking and throwing their lit cigarette butts down," which was it was a great comment. I said, I get it. I don't, I'm not a smoker, and I don't like it when people smoke outside the front door of a restaurant I'm walking into. But, but it was a great little discussion about how we would monitor something like that. I mean, it's complicated, but it was an interesting issue that this child had about it. And I just wanted to share with you that there are scouts out there apparently looking for community leaders to interview, and it was a great experience for me both times. So,
thank you.
Yes.
Do we have any other council comments?
Oh, I do have one. I just want to encourage our community and our residents to please start showing up to our council meetings and our committee meetings. There's a lot that's going on, but if you never show up and have your voice be heard, you won't know what's happening. So I just want to put a call to action out to our residents within our community, and even some of our leaders and things that are in our community, to start showing up, and let's have great conversation pertaining to the different needs of our community. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just one quick one, which is back on March 27th, and I second what Felicia, Councilwoman Dennis says. Please show up. It's a great opportunity to ask questions and learn what's going on. And to that end, the committee meeting on March 27th, if you can go back and watch that, there was a presentation by the Economic and Community Development Department to establish a residential redevelopment overlay, modification to the zoning ordinance. And we left it in committee. We didn't vote on it. We didn't move it along. So there will be more information coming about it, and perhaps even a town hall or some more public presentations so that you can all learn what the proposed adjustments are. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other further comment from council? Administration? All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Our meeting is adjourned. Have a wonderful evening.
Nice to see you.
the windows. Oh. And she was up, so she had to. Yeah, I'm 384. It's really nice. So I can watch them in the train yard. Yeah. I never knew there was a train yard there. You could probably watch a ball game. They don't have a view? No, I have to go to the other end of the building. But I could. There's some people who do. I can see the fireworks. I would have to say it was a whole heck of a lot better than living in a house. I wished I could have talked my husband into moving in there too. Is he still living? Oh, no. Sorry. Maybe we can swap it out and I'll take the old one. I've got to go out. I know. Well, I've been sick, so I'm not so hot. I'm sorry about that.
And that they have attempts to reach out to you, and so reach out to. They don't have an attempt to reach out to me. And maybe they had to organize time. No, they haven't. I think they should come up. Reach out. 5:31 night. Email. Oh, Josh is freaking lying. Unless he tried to reach out to you individually, he did not try to reach out to me. Because if he would have asked me, I would have made sure. Because you made sure last time, so I don't understand. I want to make sure that you all have them, because I'm ready to get rid of these daggone papers. Yeah. You know. Yeah, because then we can use. Yeah, I said we can. You know, and you don't have to drop them on the laptop. Yeah, but it would just save so much paper because that's what you're changing something. You copies and all of that is still in the PDF. Yep, I just. Just do it that way. Send an email out to Josh and CC me and say, hey, I've been told I need to reach out to you about these laptops that apparently you've had for months and months. Yeah, getting them, so. Yeah, because I've been there. Remember, I asked you months ago. You asked me and I reached out. Yeah. They've been had them since 2020.
Because that, I mean. 6 months? I'm used to slightly different software and such, and I'm like, what's this OpenGov and iPad? Where am I supposed to see that stuff?
That's separate. That's financial. You know, people do that.
It's just any and all, it's just like, I'm not sure.
Have you ever seen this? Anybody? Associated with your property leave off account, that is saved. If you save it there, then it is secure and you can access it.
We're still live.
Yeah, saved.
We're still live.
Why?
Because I don't have the password to Cliff's computer. We weren't able to stream through YouTube and Black Rose Community. So,
Well, Josh, get the papers, please.
no. So yeah, they got
They're keeping you up.
Can you hear me? I don't know. Well, I don't know how long we're going to be on for. Well, he must have this set to where, unless he's doing it remotely, because I was supposed to do it. Are you staying in here for a minute?
Well, and he did too.
So is it still going?
No.
Yes.
Turn these lights off.
Praise the Lord.
They're building,
Huge. Some air.
oh, yes, Springboro Township. Is it Springboro?
Oops, let me make sure we're breaking this out of here.
Springboro, right around, Zion. Mount Zion. Nope. That was Troy, but. Pretty sure it's coming.
Your 40 years.
Yeah.
We got like 40 years to get our pension, which is 80%. 40 years to get 80%. You think I'm staying for 40? I'd be like 70. No way.
I didn't know that.
Yes. That's insane. That's